See, my wife just walked in. I had to leave my daughter's basketball game early to come do this. So my priorities are like right in the order. She's actually doing a mental health podcast right after this to discuss her father's lack of interest.
Dystopia Tonight. Dystopia Tonight.
Hey, I'm here. And let me
What's
tell
up?
you, one, I love the compliments. Please, I hope the rest of the show is just that. And two, that opening, like, how you do like in a movie, it would be like, you would be an art student or something, and you'd like bring a girl to see like your showing of your film, and you would sit down and like, this is the film that would run as we just hold on her face, like just this look of like, what did I get into? Because that very much felt like oh my God, this is an art film from the other side of hell, man. I loved it, but that's what it felt like.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes I have guests on here that are clearly a little older, and a little bit more established in the business in the years that they've been doing it. And I always forget when that intro plays, they're probably like, what the fuck did my manager get me involved with? And you described it perfectly. We
took a left turn into Artsville. Like, remember The Simpsons was like, would you like a slice of apple? Like when they're in the art film house. That's what it feels like. I should be like eating, dates while I'm watching the movie.
With a beret.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's like, this is the short film that opens the retrospective of Ukrainian films. And by the way, my brain went to Ukrainian. I was just looking for Eastern European because Ukraine is in the news. That wasn't me meant to disparage the Ukraine film market. It was just the idea of like the Czechoslovakian movies or whatever.
Kick them while they're down, Jay. Kick them while they're down.
It's fine. He's just super topical. That's all. We're just making sure we hit all the marks.
That's right. I like to offend as many people as possible in the first 18 seconds of any appearance.
I'm going to try to compliment you every minute and a half, so it's my turn now. So here's the thing. Do you remember when you brought me to do colleges with you?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I still have the letters asking me not to bring you back.
Well, I kept reading my manifesto instead of doing material, and they were like, why are you letting him do this?
And they said one day that guy's going to make a short film that opens up an internet show that's going to freak everyone out. The vibe. So wait, yes, I do. We had a lot of good times together.
We did. We had a lot of good times. But one of the things I remember the most, and you were dead on accurate, we did one college in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, and they had a sweet fucking theater, like really nice theater. The kids were great. It was packed. We had a cool backstage area. That was the first one I did with you. We get done. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time. We're in the car, and I was doing another college gig with you, I think, the following weekend or something. And I was like, oh my God, that was fucking awesome. And you went, yeah, don't get used to that. It's like, what do you mean? And you were like, you'll see. And the next one, we did it in a hallway in between classes.
Yep.
At noon.
Colleges are to the film industry, or colleges is the real stand-up what pornography is to the film industry. Like, I imagine, you show up, like, you do it for the money, not necessarily for the artistic expression. And sometimes you show up and you're like in a mansion in the valley, but sometimes you show up and you're in a budget inn, in Fresno, and you're sitting there like, well, this is the business we have chosen, Michael. So yeah, colleges have a little bit less dignity to it than hardcore pornography.
I also like that you made me wait to find out what you were talking about too, because you literally did. You were like, "Don't get used to this," and I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" And then literally the next week, it was a weird situation. And I was like, "Oh, this is what he means."
And it's comedy that is dialed up to like the difficulty level like is 11. It would be like doing a high dive while the water was moving.
Yeah,
because they don't know. Well, what they don't know is they don't know that they have a bad setup, right? They put you in, like, honestly, John's not lying. We were in between classes in a hallway shouting jokes as people went by.
Yep.
And the people who book you are sitting there going, well, we've given you the most ideal situation we can to make this work, so you better make it work. And I think that's why, it's hard to be in the college world for a long time, because it is a difficult situation to get laughs in a scenario like that.
Yeah, no, it totally is. But also, it's one of those things that makes you stronger. It makes you realize that not every gig is going to be. Well, also, here's another thing too: is I feel like after doing that kind of stuff too, you realize there's not one particular gig that's going to make or break you. You know what I mean? Like when you branch out. There's another thing. I'm going to give you a little piece of wisdom you gave me at one point. This is way down the road too. We were working another gig together, but you said you had a conversation with your manager at one point, or maybe it was maybe your agent. I'm not even sure which one, but you were basically like, you got to a point where you're like, I no longer want to be the funniest person in wherever name of town. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then when you were ready to do bigger and better things. And like, that's something that stuck with me for years after it either. Cause I didn't even really, I was, too young in the game anyway, but it really framed the way I thought about other stuff too.
Well, comedy can, in a lot of ways you can start to be like, if you're at a party and there's only like one pretty girl at the party, or pretty boy, depending on what you're into, or pretty non-binary person, whatever it is that is the thing that gets you going. If there's only one attractive version of that, sometimes you get a little hyper focused on that and you don't realize there are other parties, so you sort of like you might get a little bit overzealous about pursuing something that maybe you shouldn't have pursued. Or you pursue kind of hard and then you go like, well, this isn't a big deal. Let me move on to bigger and better things.
Right.
Which I, by the way, I love that the background. It doesn't work as well as Zoom, the blurred background. So I keep going in and out of, like, I feel like I'm a ghost, like I'm haunting you guys. Like you're just trying to have a conversation. I'm like a poltergeist that shows up like, I have advice about comedy. Listen to me on the other side.
Tom and I have a Ouija board we're both fucking around with. Like, all right, hang on.
And by the way, here's the thing. If there is a connection to the afterlife, for a fact, I'm going to be showing up and continuing to talk about this stupid shit that I always talk about. Like you're going to be driving somewhere and like, there's going to be like a crackle on the radio and I'll be like, I have some advice about crowd work. And it's like, just live in the afterlife, won't you?
I tell everybody in the car and they shut up. It's Jay. He's got some advice about where you're from.
Mike Casey out of Philly, that comedian? Yeah. So somebody was like, it was like the three of us, it was Mike, me, and somebody else, and I don't remember who, but they said like, oh, you travel with Jay. What's that like? And he said, let me give you just a quick insight. I asked him a question as we were leaving Philadelphia. And as we pulled into Indiana, he said, and I guess that's all I have to say about that. So it was just a 10-hour, like, just stream of consciousness, belief and philosophy, and it's got to be exhausting. My wife will always say, "You're the most interesting person in the world for 5 minutes, and then you keep going." If you would just stop, like if you could just find a way to stop, everybody would go, "That guy's fascinating," but you don't. You just keep it. Every girlfriend I've ever had has been like, "You're a little much. You're a little much."
Yeah. Have you ever been self-aware enough to the point where where you've lost somebody, but you also still can't stop?
Oh, for sure. Oh, when I was on drugs, 100%, John. Like there'd be that little voice like way in the back going, "Stop it!" And I'd be like, "No, I've got more to say, and as quickly as I possibly can, this person will listen." I would Don Jr. the shit out of people. It's like I'm your personal Rumble. I'm going to keep talking until you turn me off.
I wouldn't mind being haunted by you. We had a guy on who was talking about some ghosts and shit, and it was still the very, very weird, ghost story shit where it's like, oh, it was a relative and they were in the house. And I'm like, people don't want to stay in their house during COVID. What makes you think they're dying, can travel anywhere and still want to stay in the same fucking house? Like, it's weird to me.
John, I just did. So a comedian invited me onto her podcast and I really didn't know what it was. And she was like, well, welcome to my podcast. It's about the supernatural. Jay, what's your experience with the supernatural? And I was like, oh, it's all made up bullshit. And she was like, well, the podcast is kind of that it isn't. And I was like, no, I'll tell you exactly how I know it's not real. Because there's either one of two things is happening if there is, people, supernatural stuff. Either, no, there's only one thing, that there's no heaven or heaven isn't very good. Because if there's an afterlife, in all seriousness, if you die and you get to heaven and you're still worried about like which relative got your watch, and you need to like go back and like settle that, because if you have the infinite of the universe, all the questions answered, you just wait patiently for your loved ones to die and be happy when they do. So there's no afterlife. You certainly wouldn't be standing on the other side of eternity going, just say the letter W. Just the letter W. Let them guess. If they don't get it, then I don't even want to talk to them. It's all baloney.
Yeah.
It's all
now,
baloney.
my family was very much like that. Like, strictly from Brooklyn, Italian, super into, supernatural shit or whatever. But literally one of them would go to sleep and then wake up and be like, your father came back to me in a dream and told me to play these 6 numbers, but I couldn't because I was stuck in traffic and it hit. And everybody would just go, oh, like we almost were millionaires.
Right.
And I would just be like, he didn't come back to do that. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
And if he did, what was his ghost plan? Like he was up in heaven, and somewhere in heaven, they have a big book of future lotto numbers.
Yeah.
And he was like, he signed up. He was like, I'm going to go tell my relatives about this. And then I guess like one of your asshole relatives like caused traffic that day so that your mom couldn't get to play the numbers. Like if you just play it out in any kind of rational way, none of this shit is real.
No.
None of it.
Yeah, exactly. And now we just disappointed everybody.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a lot of ghosts watching you every time you masturbate. Every single time.
You know what? That's the only way I can finish. Is to imagine. I was like, yeah, you like that? And I just pictured the ghost going, I thought this would be more fun, but it isn't. More than anything, it's upsetting.
Everybody developed a kink over COVID, so
there you go.
Oh yeah. My kink was not seeing my family. Anytime they weren't in the room, I was like, this is the hottest thing that has ever happened.
I like how you're looking to check to see if anyone has actually heard you. Like,
well, it's actually my wife just walked in. I had to leave my daughter's basketball game early to come do this. So my priorities are like right in the order. She's actually doing a mental health podcast right after this to discuss her father's lack of interest. But I'm going to tell you something. She scored a basket, and let me tell you, they have not invented a drug more powerful than watching your 11-year-old sink a basket in a rec league playoff game. It is the best thing. It was just wonderful. I felt like Steve Martin in Parenthood. I was like, it was the best thing ever. If they could find a way to bottle that, I would sell it on the street, man. It's wonderful.
They were like, sir, please get off the court. And you're doing that Steve Martin dance thing in the middle of not that.
Oh, I was just like, listen, I got to celebrate this because I got to leave to do a podcast that has tons of viewership.
I remember going to do a gig with you and picking you up at your house, and you turned around to say goodbye to your kids, and you're like, bye, daddy has to go provide and make sure that you guys are fed. And they were like really small. And I would just remember you thinking like, you went to me, that's not going to affect them, right? They're not going to remember that. I was like, I have no idea. You're like, you come from parents of divorce. Is that a weird thing for you? And I was like, what are you talking about? I have no idea. I'm 22. Leave me alone.
We'll come back from school sometimes and just be like, Dad, you told us about a lot of stuff you probably shouldn't have. In all honesty, you prep this for stuff that other kids aren't prepped for. So they'll say like, oh, my parents tried, my dead grandmother tried to give my mom lotto numbers, and they'll be sitting there going, bullshit. That's all bullshit. You need to know. So it's I like having kids who are interesting. I don't want to have the dumb kids that don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Do either one of them possess the comedy pizzazz? Do they have your sense of humor?
So that my son's been doing stand-up with me since he's like 5 years old.
That's
he's been
right,
getting up and doing spots. And my daughter is like, she is the middle daughter, one of the fastest human beings I've ever seen. Like her brain, whatever that gene is, Like I always described it to people as like the Terminator. Like, you know how like somebody would say something and you'd have like 5 or 6 responses to choose from, and you don't even know where it comes from. Like they're just there. They're like, okay, well that's what I'm gonna pick that one because that's the funniest. Yeah. She's got that. It's just a heads up display of funny stuff to say. And I always go to her like, you could, you know, be like your brother and do stand up, and she'll be like, no interest. No. And she told me recently, she said, I have 3 rules for who I'm going to marry: no comedians, no magicians, and no puppet guys. And I was like, wow, I mean, I can't. I was like, ventriloquist, and she was like, any puppets. And I was like, you know what? It's good that you specify. If you don't want somebody show up, it's like, I'm not a ventriloquist. I just really enjoy puppets. And you go, yeah, that's a hard no for me.
Were you hurt that we were lumped in with magicians and ventriloquists? Because I am.
No, I actually feel like that's better than where we're usually lumped. In all honesty, I always feel like we're like a step below the woman who runs the donkey show in Tijuana.
She puts on a good show.
Yeah. By the way, I always wanted to do a workplace sitcom at the Tijuana Donkey Show, but like you don't actually see any of the gross stuff. It's just them having like coffee talk, you know, where it's like, you know, I hate that Brenda always gets the good donkey. You know, like, she's such a kiss ass, and that we pause like kiss ass, huh? And then I think it'd be fun. I would watch.
There's that canned laughter.
Yeah. Oh, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if HBO called and like it was like so there's an HBO executive watch. I'm watching Dystopia Tonight, and I got a new hit. You got to get a hold of that guy.
Holy shit! Oh God!
I think it would be even funnier is if it just came on HBO and you're like, that was my idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they stole it from me. Like, I'm watching Dystopia Tonight. Don't call that guy. We're going to develop it ourselves.
Or they bring back Crashing, and that's the first episode. Pete Holmes comes up with the idea.
Pete Holmes stole my idea for the Donkey Show.
Yeah. Have you seen some of your shit on other people's stuff?
You mean like ideas and stuff?
Yeah, it could be like stuff you pitched and whatever. Have you ever had that happen?
No. Listen, maybe I don't really pay attention. Like there was apparently somebody was like doing a very recognizable part of my act. And it was like on YouTube, and people were like reaching out to me, like, you should like talk to that guy. And I was like, nah, you know, like I don't care that much. It's like, don't steal my material. But if you do, like, I always have this feeling like maybe you need it more than I do.
Right.
You know, like,
were you like, is it working for him?
Yeah. Well, no, it's, I would be very happy to go like, ooh, he's killing with my stuff. That's good stuff.
Because it's weird.
And the name of that comedian, Vinny Nardiello.
I was what time is it? 8:53. I was waiting to see how long it would take for one of us to shit on Vinny arbitrarily.
No, I love Vinny.
Me too.
More than anything.
I wonder if he's watching.
But he is fun to make fun of. I'm hoping he's watching, so I can do my impression of him. That's my impression of Vinny. But I gotta tell you,
do that.
Richie Byrne and I would talk like Vinny for like hours. Just
my God.
But we'd also do our Richie impression, like bro.
Yeah.
So, by the way, speaking of Richie,
all I want to do is zoom. That's what I love that. That's my favorite fucking thing to do in the world.
So the Richie joke that we would always do is it's Richie Byrne. He's like confused about something and he has to call Joey Cola for help. That's the entirety of the. Oh, bro, I didn't know how to get my car washed. I kept doing it with the windows down. I'm all wet. I had to call Joey Cola. Like that's it. I don't know if it makes any sense, but that was our impression. But speaking of Richie and John and Vinny, that play that you were in was fantastic, John. I was so impressed with what Vinny did. And it was hard to give Vinny an actual compliment because I've so couched my relationship with him in irony and layers of irony that like I had to like try to dig through, like, I'm going to give you a compliment, but it's going to be a real compliment. I'm not going to like undercut the compliment. And I hope doing this doesn't undercut the compliment, but it was so well written. I loved it. I really did. And you were a fantastic actor. And Richie was great. It was so well done. I really enjoyed it.
It was a lot of fun. You know what's crazy about that is the stuff that Vinny writes. You would think he had a bad childhood or like he was brought up bizarre, but he had a stable childhood and he writes all these amazing pieces about family, and some of them are dark and they're kind of fucked up. But you're just like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." You're like, "How is that possible?"
He said,
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. Oh, I like the I've never heard that before, but I'm going to start doing that to him.
Yeah. Vinny and I used to be on radio together in college, if you can believe it. We did college radio together. If you can imagine these two voices, it would be me talking and then imagine that John has a dark friend.
Imagine that.
Oh, I see. Oh, you gotta say dark mentality, because
he meant I was like, oh, that's
wow. John really does have a North Jersey following, doesn't he? There's a lot of North Jersey coming out into the chat tonight.
Oh yeah, I gotta love my fucking followers. That's great. No, Mike Rowe's a good guy. But that's when you started doing radio in college, because I don't actually know how you started in stand-up. I know you and Vinny wanted to be comedians when you were in college, but I don't know when you started and what made you start.
So I started in 2002, and I started for two reasons. One, because I always wanted to, and two, I met the woman that became my wife, and I wanted to impress her. And I don't know if you've had the experience yet where you've met a woman where you've gone like, I've got to do something, and it's just this weird male energy. And I've talked about this at length, but men have these bursts of energy, but it's just like sex. Like there's no direction to it. It's just, men will put the same amount of effort into building a potato cannon as they will into like curing a disease. Like it's all arbitrary. And it's like whatever's in front of us at the time or the thing that we've been thinking about. So I met this woman, and her name's escaping me, but I married her. It was this thing of like, I need to impress her. So I started doing stand-up, and it was honestly just going to be for fun. Like there was no career like aspirations, because I lived in Jersey and I didn't expect to go live in New York or LA. I was just going to teach high school and do this for fun. And all of it has been gravy, because it's like I didn't expect to make a living getting up in front of people and going, my penis. Like I didn't expect that would be a thing I could do.
Did she like stand-up and comedy, or did you decide that was that's even better?
No, John.
That's hilarious.
It was just, I think it was more than anything, she was like, wow, it's impressive that he tried this. At a certain point too, early on, I took her to a movie that Vinny and I wrote, and it wasn't good. But it was produced. And I remember driving home with her, and she was like, you could kind of tell she was kind of like searching for something nice to say, because it was like, wow, it was weird. It was Vinny and I sort of, unfettered id kind of writing on the page and not knowing what we're doing. And she was just kind of impressed that it was done. Like you thought of an idea and then saw it through. It wasn't good, but the idea, you saw it through. So I do think that there was a certain level of like, at the very least, this guy sort of blindly pushes through and there's no reason to. And that might be an attractive trait in a mate. I don't know. You'd have to ask her. It certainly wasn't my face or penis size.
There's a great podcast. I can't think of the name of it, but it actually asks comedians' spouses, if they're married, obviously, to talk about them and actually what it's like being married to a comedian. So there's just a suggestion if she wants to get her voice out there.
Well, I will say that she's said to me on several occasions, when you get an applause break during a show, I want to stand up and tell everybody he's not that funny. Like, I just want to stand up and go like, when he at home, he's quite dark. You should know. He's got a lot that he's working through at home.
Right.
So, but it's tough. It's hard to be married for several reasons. But number one, whenever you hear somebody tell a story, my wife will go like, do you think my friends are boring? And I'll be like, yes. And she'll be like, well, that's rude. And I'll go, we have to remember my friends are professionally interesting.
Right.
You know, like their job is just to know how to tell a story in a way that's entertaining and worth listening to. But that said, all of my friends are emotional train wrecks. You know, you don't do this. Like, you don't get into comedy because your dad hugged you enough. You know,
Right.
you get into this because you're like a gaping maw of need. You know, just a gaping like love. You need love at all times, and it's never enough. It never fills you up. There's never a point when you're done where you go, "I've had enough love, everyone. Thank you." So you're constantly looking for it, and you know, to sort of deal with that with good humor, especially because we're such self-important shitheads, John. We really are. Like, we're sitting there, you know, driving home from a gig where you're like, oh, I don't know. I feel like maybe if I paused a little more before my ball shaving joke, it would have gone better. It's like, who cares? How is this your life that you do this? You know, because men are insufferable anyway. Like, have you ever gotten the vibe? Like, I feel like the average Fox News, like, I've said this on occasion, it's pissed off people on the right, but I feel like Fox News is pornography for men over 70 who can't get hard anymore, because all Fox News is pretty blonde women listening intently while old men bloviate. Yes. And that is the sexy for old men. That's what they want more than anything. Because when you see an old guy with like a MAGA hat, and he's driving his truck and he's got his Dunkin' Donuts coffee, you know there's a woman somewhere that does not want to hear another goddamn word about the world from this guy. Right? So I feel like the spouses of comedians deal with that times a million, because not only are we, you know, spouting, but we spout and we're also trying to dig for material too. So it's like, hold on, wait, let me see if I got I'm going to write this down. Right. So it's, and by the way, I just did to you both and all people watching what I do to my wife, which is I just spoke uninterrupted for 8 minutes about a topic that required 12 seconds of an answer.
This is great. No, this is fucking phenomenal, man. No, but you are absolutely right. And that's why I do like staying single for that reason. I think I'm going to not do the married thing. I'm not going to do any of that shit. I've had girlfriends. I've gone through long relationships. I've been without them. I think it's better if I'm just single and I dabble and date on the side for a little bit and then just wait till I die.
Well, I mean, waiting for death, John, you're pretty much married if you're waiting for death. I mean, that is the cornerstone of any good marriage.
And it's not that like you, like I admire, I feel like Tom's married. I get it. I get why people get married. I understand it. There's just a lot of it that I don't know you were in relationships like early on, and then you found your wife like after college, right?
Yeah. I found her the year
I think
after
I think if you stay single for a certain amount of time, you really you get fucked up. And then the idea like the farther away you get from a relationship, the less you're going to be in one. And I don't think I can do it anymore.
Well, and also too, I couldn't imagine being a full-time comic and trying to get a woman interested in staying with me beyond like 3 weeks, because
that's about
what I understand is like a girl goes, "Oh my God, you do this? This is awesome." And then the second weekend is, "So wait, you got to do this again?" And then the third weekend is, "So this is every week? This is what you do? You're in Scranton talking about your vaginas in Scranton? That's your life?" And you go, "Well, it is. Welcome to show business," and they're cartwheeling out the door.
Absolutely.
Finishing that statement. Yeah. And you go, "I get it. Goodbye. Tell your friends."
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't like I'm a curmudgeon now about like weddings. I don't want to go to weddings anymore. I threw my suit out over the pandemic and I have no idea. It was I
love that it's my suit. Like you have one suit in there.
I do have one suit. First of all, I have 9 leather jackets and I have one suit. It was from my communion. And it still fits.
But to be fair, when you're an Italian in North Jersey, they give you a leather jacket every year. The government provides you one. You just get it in the mail from the local. This is your leather jacket. Go enjoy, John. Have a good day. You get a cross chain and a leather jacket provided yearly by the International Association of Italian Brotherhood. I think that's right.
I don't think I've genuinely laughed that hard on this show since 100 and something episodes in. That was fucking hysterical. Oh fuck. Nice. Yeah, no, that's true. You're absolutely. I wish that was true. That'd be so great. Vinny, but I have one suit.
and you don't want to go to weddings. First off,
No.
you know, Vinny and I got into an argument because he had his wedding on a Saturday, and I was like, I'm booked, and he was like, you're not going to take off for my wedding, and I'm like, this is the equivalent of you having like a regular person having a Tuesday morning gig. You know, it's like my wedding is Tuesday at 11 a.m. I hope you can show up, and it's like I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I sent him a nice gift, but he understood. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure he. Yeah. No, I
They're
couldn't
big,
make it to a couple friends' weddings, and it was the same shit where they were like, "Wow, you're really not gonna." And it got to a certain point where I was like, "No, I'm not gonna take off for it because one, I don't think it's gonna last. It didn't,
Right.
and because, but that's just the craziest. Like, and I know this is shitty, by the way, but I don't have like $200 and something to give as a wedding gift. You know what I mean? To fucking, it's like, you know, you're paying for something that you don't know that people are going to get bored of in 3 years anyway. Then also split with me and get a PlayStation 5 for me. You know what I mean? I'm going to get bored of that in 3 fucking years, but it's the same shit. Give me $200. No one's doing that. I know it's selfish, believe me. I know nobody understands it, but
I think there's a good chance that you get married just to get the gifts at some point because
I
like,
swear
they
to
owe you
fucking God,
all of that.
I've talked to some of my single friends and I'm like, why don't we just do it? We'll fake the whole fucking thing. Because I've had friends, parents who've taken second mortgages out on their houses to have a fucking wedding. So there's like a chocolate bar and like a thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it.
Right.
And I know it's supposed to be happy. It's horseshit.
2 things,
anyway.
John. One thing, have a bachelor ceremony.
What's
and
that?
Just say, I'm inviting all of my dogs. We just invented it. You just invite all of your friends and you celebrate bachelorhood. You just go like, and everybody makes a toast about how we knew you'd never find the perfect person. And you know, like we get up, we have like a best, you get all dressed up. Everybody gives you a gift, and it's all like, it's like housewarming gifts, but for bachelors, it's like neon beer signs and like, you know, like black lights. It's like Maxim magazines, but they're framed. You can put them up on the wall. Which, by the way, I went over to a guy's house who was a bachelor. Same thing. He's in his 30s and is a bachelor, and he had framed Maxims on the wall. And I remember going like, "Is this just like nature's way of saying do not be with me?" You walk in and like a guy's like, "I liked her tits enough." Come on.
That's the creep. That's the creepy side of the men thing. Where like, I hope if I get to that level where I have my own closet door where I'm like, come in here, fellas, if you want to see some real, you know, kill me, just end my life. Will you come to the bachelor ceremony if I book it on a Tuesday?
Oh, on a Tuesday morning, I'll be there. If you book it on a Saturday, you're getting a check and a sad face. But so what was I going to say? I was going to say the bachelor thing. Forget it. It was funny. Just laugh and go like, oh, Jay probably had a really good thought.
We'll cut it in later. I'll edit it in post.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I remember now. The biggest fight I ever got into with my wife before I got married was because I didn't take any of this shit seriously anyway. My wife was like, "Do you want to get married? Like, what do you want for the wedding?" And I was like, "Nothing. Let's just let's have a barbecue." And she's like, "Well, we can't have a barbecue, Jay." And I was like, "Well, I'll tell you what. You do whatever you want. I'm not involved. I don't care." Like and by the way, I urge all men to do that because when you show up at your wedding, it feels like a surprise party. Like you show up and you're like, oh my God, all my friends are here. How did they even know?
Yeah.
But, so I didn't do anything. Like literally I didn't, because she'd be like, do you want to do the tasting? I'm like, I don't know. It's all going to taste good. I don't care. So nothing. So she was like, you got to pick out a tux. And I was like, no, I don't. Just pick out one for me. And she's like, Jay, I've asked you to do nothing. But you need to pick out a tux. And I'm like, the whole point of a tux is they look the same. Like, unless I'm getting like a blue frilly one from like 1979, like it doesn't matter. And she's like, you're going in and you're picking out a tux. So, and this was, John, I made a tactical bad move. I walked into the tux rental place. I opened the big book. I pointed to the first tux on the first page and said, that'll do. And it was just like steam. She was really upset. And looking back, she should have called the wedding off. It would have saved her so much pain. But I was sitting there like I stopped. Like I honestly feel like they were talking about when you have dopamine that fires incorrectly and it creates depression. In some cases, it can be like autism or ADHD. One of the hallmarks of it is you focus on the wrong things. Like you could be in a conversation with somebody and they could be making very sad faces, but you're counting the number of cracks behind them. And it's not because you dislike them. It's because your brain is like, hey, look at all the cracks behind it. There's a lot of cracks on the wall. I wonder how many there are. And then you're like, have I ever seen that many cracks before? I don't think I have. And I think in order to do what we do, in order to do comedy, you can't, it's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle of comedy. You can't be part of something and observe that thing at the same time.
Right.
So like if you were of a mind to go to a concert and be like, woo, you're not going to be a comedian because you're enjoying life.
Right.
But I think the hallmark of a comic, it's not so much that we're depressed, it's just that we're sitting back going, that's a lot of wooing, you know.
Yes.
And it becomes a bit because you're just thinking about the wooing, and it's like, what do they feel like when they woo? And you're just focused on all the wrong things. So I think ultimately that's where we have problems. And honestly, I've spent the last 5 years in therapy just trying to figure out how to focus on regular human things. And it's been nice. Humans like stuff. I mean, they got a lot of nice stuff.
Do you feel like at some point you did have that ability though? Because I do feel like I went in waves with me where I was like, yes, I have a time in my life where I remember I was focused on certain things. I enjoyed going to weddings. I didn't see the little details and everything and try to pick it apart constantly and whatever. And also same thing dealing with depression. Like I'm just learning recently that I probably have a smidge of ADHD. I don't really know exactly, but I'm, I haven't gotten
almost assuredly. If you do this, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing you said, though, like, I think like when I was my most depressed, which was like a 3-year, I mean, I've been dealing with it all my life, but like a 3-year span where it was like fucking lights out, you know what I mean? Like didn't want to exist anymore. But I think it was also like, now I look at it like, wow, I fixated a same way I do on a comedy bit or the same way when I'm on stage and that magic happens where you're like grabbing from every, resource you possibly can. I think I was doing that with every negative, every fucking every horrible, and it was like too quick and it was just bombarding me and I saw no way out and no windows. It's a really weird place to be.
Well,
so I was going to say, did therapy help you out of that?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think like when you have a day job, before you do this full time, you're sort of forced to interact with human beings in a normal, everyday human being kind of way.
Right.
And then you go, I'm free. I'm a comedian now. And you only deal with other comedians. You have, 18 hours a day where you're just sort of in your head. And your entire life is about collecting material for bits in a way that it wasn't before it was full time. Sure. And one of the things that you learn about depression in therapy is like the reason why you create like healthy habits. Like if you ever go to like any kind of outpatient hospital, which, one of the things that they'll do is they'll tell you like, how'd you sleep? How'd you eat? Did you exercise? And it was again and again, every group therapy is exactly the same. How'd you eat? How'd you sleep? How'd you exercise? And you realize it's because depression feels like a sickness, right? And your body wants to go to bed and just sit there because you go like, I'm sick. I got to get better. How do I get better? I'll lay down. And the counterintuitive part of that is you got to get up and take a walk. You got to go eat healthy. Nutella out of a jar isn't going to fix this. You need to do some exercise and get some healthy sleep and be awake when the sun's up. And just to sort of tie everything together, I think when you're in that when you're in a world that doesn't force you out of whatever that dark cocoon is, whether it be even the day-to-day of like dealing with people or a major depression, it's hard to break free because you got nothing pulling you into the world,
right?
And for me, it's just been a long journey of like, my first feeling about stuff is to not do anything. I coached my daughter's basketball team, and it was hard to sort of like sign up for that, even though I knew that it would be good. But you sign up and you force yourself to go, and I loved it. I mean, not enough to stay. I came here, but but you know what I'm saying?
Like, you make choices.
Force yourself to do that stuff. You make choices.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing you were saying too about trying to step back and see the world in a different way and kind of observing stuff or whatever. It is kind of like the same thing with COVID, right? And I know this is going to be probably a weird area to go into, but I can't unsee certain patterns. I'm not a big I don't really like participating in society. I know that sounds fucked up and weird, and probably when you look at me you're like, that makes sense. You know what I mean? But like, but in certain aspects, right? Like, again, like I'm fine with other people who want to do normal shit. Like, I get it. You go to the ABCs, you get the house, you get the kids, you get the wife, you do your day job, and everybody goes happy and checks out. My brain doesn't work that way. I'm not drawn to that kind of stuff, but I don't mind if other people do it. What I hate is being forced to participate in it when, you know what I mean? Like, it's designed a certain way to work a certain way. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's like the sacraments in church. There are certain sacraments in life that they expect you to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to go do the Stations of the Cross, but it's like, a barbecue.
Right. Yeah. And then like, so here's my thing, right? So what, 900K people died of COVID. And, but I think it's weird because as a society, we have chosen to go, that's acceptable. You know what I mean? Like, we've chosen to go, okay, it affects just old people. That's fine. We're still going to go about our day. And then we're like, well, it also it affects, people who have immunodeficiencies. And we're like, well, I know, but also I want to go to Applebee's. And then it's like, and whatever. But every fucking year, 9/11, they pump out that trauma porn and it's never forget. Yeah. And it's like 300K people, 30,000 people died or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think, like, I argue in my head when I'm like, John, that's fucked up. But it's not, because it feels like it's laid out for me that way. You know what I mean? Like, do you also struggle with that kind of thing? Where like, I cannot say this among normal people because they'll be like, how dare you compare 9/11 and that horrific, which it was, obviously. I have to say that just in case anybody thinks I'm not, if I don't think of that. But you know what I mean? Like, it is weird that's the kind of way, but you can't say that to normal people.
Yeah, right. Because they feel like, well, are you minimizing 9/11? It's like, no, I'm trying to figure out why you're minimizing 9/11.
Yes, exactly.
That we have a 9/11 happening every 3 days now, and it doesn't seem to affect you. Like, if we could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that COVID is Muslim, would that change your opinion on it?
Right.
And I do feel like there's a lot of MAGA that would be like, what?
Yeah.
COVID, Muslim COVID, give me that vaccine. I want a truck. I got to get a truck caravan to get that vaccine in. We've got to kill them Muslim COVIDs. But yeah, I mean, it's like, people don't like to have their sort of hypocrisy revealed to them. And I especially think that they, on some level, we all know there's that racial component to it, right? I mean, part of the reason why 9/11, I mean, of course, there's a huge tragedy that happened and we all got to see it. And there's trauma there.
Yes.
But I think very visceral. And, like, aside from like seeing the people, like the videos of people in like breathing apparatuses or like the trucks, COVID was less visceral for people.
Yeah.
But I do think that, when you start to point out to people like, well, there's probably like racism here. The reason why 9/11 hit you so hard is because you wanted to dislike Muslim people or,
the guy charging you too much for gas.
Right, and they'll go, how dare you, run through a wall like a Kool-Aid machine. I think that it's difficult to do that in normal society, which is part of the reason why, like, when we do it on stage, it's okay. Yeah. And it's hard to do off stage. It's hard to do. I remember once I was at like my girlfriend in college made me go to like a business dinner etiquette program where like, she wanted to learn how to like have like small talk at a dinner table, and she's like, "You should come with me; it'll be fun." And I was like, "I don't think it will, but I'll go with it." And Hell Bop had just happened. The guys who cut their own wieners off, because they thought aliens were they put on white sneakers because
they had a Nike deal. Not a Nike deal,
aliens are very
Nike sponsored the event.
Dropped, and here comes the aliens to come.
But there goes that potential sponsorship for the show.
Actually, Kanye, you don't know. You might be like, "What? Aliens are watching the Poveromo show? I got to get in on that." But I remember I was sitting there at dinner with them, and they were talking about it, and like, are all those people insane? They're so insane.
Yeah.
And I remember it was right around Easter, and I was like, "Yeah, I heard some of the crazy shit they did." And then I just started describing like Easter traditions. Like, I heard they hid eggs and they went looking for the eggs. And insanely, they thought the eggs somehow would be their savior. I don't know. They thought a rabbit laid them. It made no sense. And my girlfriend at the time was like punching me under the table. And it was kind of silly. It was very much like the kid who comes home from the first semester at college and is like, let's thank the Indians for being slaughtered for our meal today, because it's very like low level satire. I mean, it's not a lot of insight into the world. But in my brain, it was the exact same thing.
Yeah,
like you making fun of Hale Bop is exactly the same as all your dumb traditions. So like, you know, I'd be fine if you knew that. Like if you said, I get it, I'm still going to make fun of it, I'd be like, I applaud you. But I couldn't get past it in real life. Like I was like, you need to be aware of this. And really, our jobs don't lend themselves to maturity in that respect, because that's what we get paid for, is pointing that stuff out on stage. It just doesn't work in real life. Nobody wants to hear about that, you know, while they're at a dinner etiquette party
that you're making fun of for that. Yeah, God, man. It was funny too, is the people that can tell that you think is, because it's on my face. Like when I have to go to a function like that, and back when I had a suit. And I used to go to those sort of things, not to brag. Yeah, they could just tell at a certain point, because my face, like, I don't lend it to enjoyment of any of that shit anymore. Like if I had to be in a meeting with a friend, or like this girl I was dating, she was in law school, and I had to go to Chicago. Yeah. Yeah. Well, sadly, we're not together.
My girlfriend was a rocket scientist who also was an inventor and a spy. John with his law school girlfriend. How dare you?
Well, she makes more money than me, if that makes you feel better. So do a lot of people. But yeah, she there's a line. She had this thing, and we all get together, and it was the most pretentious, as you would imagine, the most pretentious fucking bullshit. And after a while, I think I just snapped and started making fun of the dude, you know, who was like obviously chief law guy. You know what I mean? Like they just won their fake mock trial. And yeah, I was immediately like, people were like, who the fuck is this guy? And I wanted to be like, yeah, I don't know who I am either. I don't know why I'm like this. Everyone's having a good time, but me.
Well, there's a driving energy to make people aware of their hypocrisy, and it doesn't make you super popular.
No,
you know, nobody goes like, "Ooh, bring the hypocrisy guy. That'll be fun." The hypocrisy guy. I love being reminded of my own hypocrisy.
This is the thing that I mean, you know, that's the thing. I think COVID was bad for comedians in a lot of ways, but for me in particular, it was bad because like everything that you thought was bullshit, you were like, you know, maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's something that people see in this kind of shit or whatever, and they just have a good time. And then COVID hit, and then you were like, wow, no, it really is. Like they just started making money and fucking tossing it at people, and you know, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? And then like, and everybody who had a job, like none of their jobs fucking matter. All the ones that everyone thought were shitty became essential because they were like, if you get sick, who cares? So like everything got flipped around, and I was like, I'm right. And then now that we're sifting back into this pretend normality, I'm like, I feel like that lunatic on the street that's like, does anybody see? Who's no one looking?
Do you guys remember 8 months ago? Sorry, John, we moved on. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a sale at Burlington Coat Factory. I can't be here with you any longer. I have to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And get another suit.
Yeah, I am gonna have. I got a wedding coming up. I gotta get I'm not even kidding. I'm so fucking mad. I gotta get a suit. You have no idea. Like I'm roped into this thing.
Stop being friends with the person.
I'm gonna have you break up with them for me, friendship wise. You can be like, listen, he's done. He's moved on.
It's not working out. John wants to start getting heavily into cocaine culture and doesn't feel like you're the kind of person. He wants you just to have sweaty, long conversations at a party about business ideas, and he doesn't think that you're the person to do that with. I'm sorry. I wish it would work out for you, but it won't.
Well, that's the audio I'm using now. You gotta wait till I know they're at work and then just play that into their voicemail and be like, come on, don't pick up.
How upset would you be if they were like, yeah, I get it, John. I thought they said it anyway.
I like that much more. If people were like, look, I like believing that the cops are gonna save us because I can sleep better at night. I'll be like, oh, that seems to be understandable. Yeah. But when there's like every statistic out there that says if you call the cops, like they're not going to show up on time. Like there's nothing that, you know what I mean? Like that's the reality you live in. You're not more safe. It's just that you
I'm blue pilled to the extreme, man. I live in a warm blanket of fantasy. That's all I do
is there room in there?
Yeah. Come on in. No, people care about each other in my blanket. There's a love outside of ourselves. There's a warm and caring God. It's wonderful in here.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so nice. I'll get there one day. Maybe when I stop dyeing my hair. What? Your hair looks nice, by the way. I know you were worried about it beforehand, but it turned out to be very nice.
Yeah, I think it looks. I kind of have like a wavy old guy. Like I got like a little Rand Paul going on right now.
No, it's majestic. You look like
No.
Zeus.
Rand Paul, how dare you?
Yeah, well, he's got curly hair. He's a curly-headed old guy, and my neighbor wants to hit me, so I feel
Yeah,
like.
but you. Same thing. I got to compliment you on your Twitter account because you're the only guy I know who's grown their Twitter organically. Like you went,
thank you.
I saw you build it like in real time because I followed you and your comments are hilarious. And then you weren't one of those dudes who did it at like where they had 6 followers on a Tuesday and then by Friday it was like 30K and you're like, the fuck? Like you did it well enough to. Thank you. You did it well to do it. Like, was that like because you're really really good at it though? Did that take time to do? Like,
well, so the thing about Twitter that I found was like one, like I was trying for the longest time to just like be generically funny on Twitter. Where I would just like be like, "Hey, socks are weird." Send like, "Oh, that'll get 10,000 likes, I'm sure." But when Trump happened, and I came back to Twitter because I was off for like 4 years, but I came back in February of 2020. I guess when that whole pandemic thing started, I was like, I had no outlet for we weren't doing stand up. And I was so pissed off about politics. I was just like, you know what? I'm really good at being a smartass quickly. Mm-hmm. So if Trump says something, I'll just be the first person to have like a funny haha reply. And I found that was like really kind of a good way to build a following because people would be like, oh, well, that guy's pretty funny. I should follow him. And then it starts to snowball a little bit because the bigger accounts start to follow you. And when the bigger accounts follow you, they retweet you. And now I split it up. I try not to be as much of a reply guy because it is kind of cheesy to do that on Twitter. I try to do like my own tweets, but
I just reached 25K.
I just passed 25K.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All your problems go away at 25K. I hit 25 and really emotionally, I'm finally whole. But
did Twitter send you that blanket that everyone there's God there and warm and family? Because that's
it's like the Google Play thing, except it's a blanket and a certificate that says problem free. But it's so much fun for me because like when someone has like especially like Don Jr. or somebody that I really hate or Ted Cruz, it's that itch you can scratch like when you get a heckler who says something to you. And your brain is just like, oh, I've got so many fun, nice things to say about this person, but I can do it virtually, and I just love it. I will never not make fun of Don Jr.'s septum. I just picture that sort of like empty, cavernous Coke carved septum that's just like flapping in the breeze in there. And I know
there's Fraggles in there and Doozers building shit.
Well, there's a Doozer population issue because the septum is gone. The Coke Fraggles have eaten all of the Doozer septum. And you know that Eric is a Gorg.
Oh God! I love that I could do a Fraggle reference with you, and you would just keep going with it. That was special.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Fraggle fan. Or are you a Red or Moki?
Oh man, I'm a Red. I love Red. Moki as a kid always kind of like freaked me out a bit, like a little boring, a little too hippie, sleep. She's like a Phoebe, but less crazy.
So and here's what I'm gonna tell you. Even as a kid, I knew I'd be like, man, I'd want a Red, but I'd have to settle for a Moki. Because you know what I mean? Like I feel like a Red wouldn't be into me. Like Red would be like, you're my pal, and I'd be like, oh, but I want to, But Moki would be like, I wrote a poem about you.
Right. Well, dude, I honestly, I thought you meant like personality wise. And I'm like, oh, he's talking about which one to fuck. I had no idea we were going in that direction, but I agree. Yeah, I would have let a Red wreck me. And then, I would have, and then a Moki would have comforted me afterwards. They would have. She would have broken my heart.
I would have tried really hard for Red, but I feel like she'd just be like, oh, let's go swimming. And she'd swim naked or whatever. And I'd be like, this is really erotic, but she wouldn't see it as erotic. You know what I
No.
mean? She would just be like, "We're just
Yeah.
swimming. We're just buddies." And I'd be like, and I'd be so messed up that I would go with Moki, but I wouldn't have any emotion for her. But like then we
Yes,
would
and you'd feel
wind up
bad
together.
because you're not a bad
We
guy.
Right. I'd be like in a
Yeah.
4-year relationship with Moki, listening to talk about her goddamn crystals.
Yeah.
And I was
Moki
just,
also
geez.
looks like she smells like pee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's yeah.
And you know that she's the type that has a lot of dream catchers and a lot of like turquoise jewelry that she bought on like roadside stands in Arizona. And she's like, each one of them, she's got like, I've got a story about this bracelet. And you're like,
oh, absolutely, dude. There's a wave of fucking. I'm sure dudes are like this too, but I just have no idea. So I'm just gonna go. There's a wave of fucking women now that are like, they all believe in a little something like that. And I think even if I had to settle, I would have to just turn my brain off to that. I have to be like, yeah, she sprays shit on the pillows at night because that she thinks will have her good dreams. But I have allergies and I got to wake up with a rash on half my face. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
John, I got a theory about this.
Sure.
Here's my theory. Women have to believe in higher powers because they got to deal with us.
Yeah, that
and
makes sense.
Like, can you imagine being married to one of us, right?
No.
And you're sitting there and like you've just shared your genes with this person to make new people, right? You've just intermingled blood to make new humans, and you're sitting there watching this person, you know, explode because somebody else got like the best spot at the stand up New York, you know. So like, you know, folks coming out like he's crying on a rug because you know he can't get a meeting with his manager or whatever.
Right.
So like, how do you deal with that? I think you deal with that by going, you know, there's a higher power looking out for me, because I wouldn't be with this person if there wasn't the crystal people telling me that this is the right thing to do. And I get
you described how people act in jail, where they're like, if I don't believe in a higher power, I may never get out of this or never survive jail. That's the same thing.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like crystals are like the Aryan nation. Listen, you don't want to join them, but if you're going to survive, you're going to need to join a tribe in here. It's just, I've seen Oz. I know how this shit works.
Holy shit, dude. That is, let me ask you this. Do you have a heart out? Because I still want to talk to you about stuff, but if I told you this would be an hour and I know you're busy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, I would love to keep talking to you. Sure. At a certain point, I got to put the kids to bed. So I figured, I don't have a heart out, but let's just do like, you know, like the way I end sex, where we just kind of slowly stop and then you apologize.
I don't do this with everybody, but I also was like, I know he's got a family. I know it's late or whatever, so I appreciate it. So I
appreciate you having me. Yeah,
no problem, man. Yeah, it's been a blast. So I have to have you back on because I feel like we barely touched like your comedy career and comedy in general, but I enjoyed it either way. I got to ask you the big 3 questions though.
Sure.
Ready? All right, here we go.
Always, I'm ready to go.
All right. If you can go back in time and talk to your younger self, what piece of advice would you give yourself today that would help you out?
Buy Apple stocks. Are we talking? This is 97. I would just be like, listen, buy as much Apple as you can, and just hold it.
Okay.
And nothing else will matter.
Love it. Yeah,
that's it.
I agree.
I picture that just
2019. Move to Fiji. By the way, just real fast, you know, I caused COVID, and I want to apologize to everybody because in January of 2020, I was looking at my 2020, and I was like, and I remember distinctly turning to my wife and going, "This is the best year financially we're ever going to have." And as I said that, a bat landed in Wuhan. It sneezed on everything. I was like, no, I should have. Why did I say this in front of God? But yeah, no, buy Apple and move to Fiji. That will be
beautiful. Second question is, what had to end in your life, good or bad, to lead you to where you are today?
Well, teaching, stability. You know, I think just the stability in general. And, you know, I've lived in an unstable world for so long that I don't know how, like, if I can go back to a stable world. You know, like what we give up is, you know, on the one hand, there are times where I'm sick to my stomach with worry about, like, you know, the back half of the year is looking pretty light. But on the other hand, there's like every time the phone rings and it's a number that I don't know, it's like, this is either about my car warranty or my life is about to change, you know, like,
Right.
there, and that's an addictive thing. I'm sort of playing the lottery every day.
Yeah.
And it's that,
And you have to pick up every call.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And you just go like, oh wow, 212. What's about to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst is when now people are allowed to block their, like, it'll come up wireless caller and it's either spam or, again, like you said, it's somebody who's like, hey, you want to do a thing with Spielberg? And you're like, no, but yeah, you do.
Have you ever wanted to do comedy on a space shuttle while we're booking it? And you're like, well, I guess that's a yes. I'll be on the space shuttle. Sure.
Do you have 8 light years of material? Sure we do.
Yeah. And I go, but I only have 3 light years. John, what am I going to do? I once did a gig at a synagogue, and I'm still mad I didn't get a laugh on this. I had to do, it had to be totally clean. And I got to the end of my set, and I was like, I was really nervous about doing the synagogue because I only had 5 minutes of clean material. But then miraculously, this 5 minutes lasted 8 times longer than I thought it would. Wow. And we got, it's a Hanukkah reference, John. You and nothing.
I wanted to hold out because I was like, he said he didn't get a laugh. Should I do it?
And I'm mad at you for that. I'm leaving. Goodbye. That's my heart out.
No, don't do it. Yeah. It really did make. I was like, I gotta hold it in. Like if I hold it in, no, that is fucking hilarious.
We were so good that my Jewish friends and we had so much fun until we got to that point. I was like, I'm legitimately very angry with all of you people for not laughing at that. And I still haven't forgiven that synagogue.
It's weird the things that people don't realize we live with comedically as opposed to every other good thing that's happened. We remember shit like that 100%.
Oh, yeah. No, people at this point, like I've been doing it long enough where, if there's no compliment you can give me that, number one, will affect me in a good way or make me believe you.
Yeah.
Like you'd be like, oh, I came in here and I had bowel cancer, but I laughed so hard I think it shook out and I don't have it anymore. And
it like shook out.
Yeah, you shook out my bowel cancer. The best I'll do is like, oh, hey, thank you. Make sure the waitress knows to clean that up. And then I would leave because I don't have the capacity to feel joy about that. But if you came over to me and was like, hey, I thought your set was great, but that one joke I thought was not so great. I would go out to the car and cry for 15 minutes.
Yep. There's a gig in like 2008, and it was a pretty good year for me stand-up wise. And of course, I did a hometown gig, and hometown gigs always suck. But I was walking on I was like, yeah, this is great, man. I'm finally hitting my stride. I'm doing pretty good. And I did the gig, and when I tell you I bombed, I mean, in front of like people who used to know, people's parents, I used to, coming out. I just ate it because I did. I have no idea why. And to this day, somebody wrote like a shitty note in my car. I've told this story before, but like, it is one of those things, where I'm like, I feel like I should apologize to everybody there. I could never do it.
Right.
But like, and it doesn't even make any sense. Everybody's forgotten about it. I remember it. I don't know why.
Yep. Well, because if you were a normal person, you wouldn't have gone into comedy in the first place.
This is true. Absolutely. Yeah. And last question is my favorite because it ties into the show. If this was a real dystopia, alien, zombies, comet heading toward the Earth, just nuclear waste, how would you want to go out? What would be your epic death?
Oh, if this is the actual end of the whole world.
Yep.
Like
how
the
you
last thing I do, or like how am I remembered is what you're saying.
Not necessarily how you remembered because we're all going to be dead. But like, if you don't give a fuck, like if you like, oh, I know this is it, and I'm going to go out this way. What do you want to be doing? How do you want to go out? You want to go out fighting somebody? You want to go out swan dive?
I rather than give you a funny answer, I'm going to give you a sincere one. I'm kind of doing it. I would, number one, I'd be on a podcast that has gotten 0 comments except for the first one. I would do a 0 comment podcast, and then I'd go with my family. But no, in all honesty, in all sincerity, it would be with my family. I have an unending amount of joy with them. They really do. They're like the kind of real joy that I thought that I would get from stand-up, and for the longest time, I kept trying really hard to get from strangers. you don't get adulation from your family, but adulation doesn't. You think adulation is love, but it isn't.
Right.
Oh, thank you, Sunlighter, who I'm pretty sure is one of you guys.
No, it's
you guys are like real quick, like, oh,
let me just make an account. Hang on.
People love every second of it.
I like froze my screen, so I'm like, and then like quickly typing stuff in the background.
Everybody's like, this Call of Duty stream sucks. Shit. What is this? What's this game Dystopia? It's terrible. It's just a guy talking about like dime store philosophy. It sounds like a sophomore year philosophy major just jerking off. If a sophomore in a philosophy major jerked off into some Tupperware, this is the word it would spell out.
I'm using that as a quote about the show.
Yeah, no, that's actually that's what I tattooed in Latin on my lower back. But no, it's the adulation that you seek in strangers is not love, and you get confused. At least I did, because I would come back to my family when I was depressed, and I'd be like, "You should give me adulation," and you're not going to get that. But it's like the difference between eating candy and eating vegetables. Like the sort of sustaining love that you get, and I've really discovered that. In the last 8 to 9 minutes, I really discovered that with my family. But since getting sober and sort of, the last 5 years, kind of just focusing on mental health. I cannot think of a better way to spend it than, with my family, and hopefully they die first.
We're still alive.
We're all
right?
gonna die. I would like to last the longest of this.
Yeah. Well,
it
is a contest.
Like 30 decades long. No.
Right.
But no,
just test out another family.
Yeah, I just want to see if maybe there's a way to get love and adulation. Maybe it's just a different family I needed.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's just my family. I love them to pieces. They're really good. My wife is great. 2 out of the 3 kids are wonderful. But no, I love it. So that's what I would do. If this were a dystopia, I would spend it with them. And in a lot of ways, I kind of miss the early part of the pandemic.
Same.
Where we were all sort of huddled in. It felt like the whole world had a snow day. And I know that
that's
people
how I described it.
Yeah, I know people were dying and it was terrible, and people are still dying and it's still terrible. Yeah. But there was this sense for like 4 weeks, like, oh, we're in this together, we're gonna get through it, it's gonna be okay. And then it sort of all fell apart. But I kind of miss those days where it was just watching home improvement shows with my family. That was fun.
Me too. Like Tim Allen home improvement, or I only watch later Tim Allen. I was watching Man of the House only in my family. I only like Republican Tim Allen. I like Tim Allen telling me that there's not enough men in the world. Right.
I like Red.
That's my only Tim Allen impression.
Tim Allen.
He's doing a Santa Claus TV show, so get ready for that.
From the movie, he's doing a TV version of that.
Disney Plus is ordering a series.
Now, here's the thing: how much money does that guy need?
Right.
If he had the number one. He's got to be worth $100 million, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
I mean, could you? I mean, it's not that fun to be on set. Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah,
I'm not really here. That was his book about quantum physics, if I remember correctly, right?
Want to know a fun fact about this? This is what a buddy of mine told me. You know him too, Joe Starr. He did not write this book. Chris Rush basically wrote this book. Basically, Ghost wrote it for him. Is it wrote it? Ghost wrote? Ghost written? He written it?
Ghost wrote, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because my brain was like, you're an idiot. So I stopped the whole show just because of that for 20 minutes. Jay left. But yeah, that's not even his book. That's why I have it out, because I was like, get the fuck out of here. He mentions Chris Rush in here too. But yeah,
well, I mean, I would fully expect if I was writing for a comedian that they would not read it before they put it out. So I would just like do a whole chapter about how great I am. I'd be like, and another thing about my good friend Jay Black. He's the funniest person ever. If anybody should have a TV show, it's him. Are you listening, Disney? ? Exclamation mark.
Follow him on Twitter.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
God.
follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
All of the people who didn't comment,
Wait,
come
no,
to my Twitter. I'm trying to grow it. I want to get to 100,000. Thank you. They bring you leather jackets. Thank you, Candy145. Or should I say, John145?
I can't. Oh, he's finding all my spam accounts. Dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. You're fucking always hilarious. Love talking to you.
Yeah, anytime.
You gotta come back.
Listen, as I've said, I like any program in which I get to talk the most. So
I like not
anytime.
talking.
Bring me on. Real fast. I remember I was in college and I wanted to do a talk show. And they were like, you can't do a talk show because we don't have phone lines. So how are you going to do? What are you going to talk 2 hours uninterrupted? And I was like, yes. And they're like, we don't think you can. And but John, I could. I found a way. 2 hours uninterrupted for once a week. It wasn't that tough as it turned out. Anytime you want me on here, I'm here. And to all of John's fake followers who watch the show, I want to say thank you. And I'm with you on the robot uprising bots. You follow us, come get me. I'll be there for you.
We've never had someone give a shout out to bots.
Yeah, no, I want to be I will be the collaborator. I will immediately sell out other humans and just be like, oh yeah, no, I'm with you, bots. I was with you the whole time. I like your ideas. I think, motor oil is delicious. I would be right in there. So anyway, John, thank you for having me. And please, everybody follow me on Twitter. I will judge how well John's show is doing by the number of new followers I get. So if you want to show John that his show's doing well, that's the only way to do it is go to Jay Black is Funny and follow me. That's right, Sunlightster.
I got to make a shit ton of fake accounts real quick.
That's right. I better have 25,000 zero follower, no avatar followers tomorrow. It's just like, and they all say the same. I thought Jay was funny. LOL. It's like all the same things. Like, John, your show's doing fantastic.
They're all the original egg avatars from when Twitter first started. And they're like, it's not even
right. Yeah, that's not even the thing. And I want all of them to have a cross and an American flag in the bio because that's how you know you're dealing with high quality Twitter content. And hashtag Second Amendment. That's how you know. This guy. That guy has truck nuts and ideas.
I'm going to make them all alternative Jay Black accounts, like variant accounts, but it's all you from different timelines.
Oh, by the way, number one, you don't think that's my fucking fantasy is 1,000 of me in a room? Best thing, first off, I would have a gay orgy with myself because it would be okay to do. It would be okay. I've already told my wife, if a version of me from another timeline shows up and gives me a hand job, it's not cheating. It's just masturbating with extra steps. It is not cheating. I can have sex with alternate versions of me. We're still trying to figure out if I can have sex with alternate universe versions of her.
Why wouldn't
she said? Well, she says no because it's with another woman. Which okay, fine. Well, that's the thing. I kind of want to see if she'd fight herself over me. That'd be kind of hot. You know,
no, they would walk out on you, both of them.
Yeah, oh no, they would
they would catch a movie.
They'd be like, come to my universe. Everybody here is a tarantula or whatever, because it's the infinite timeline. Our universe, the Dark Ages never ended. We're going to go on crusade. And we're like, are we married in that one? No, you died of dysentery at 3, asshole. Like, oh.
Would you sleep with your tarantula wife?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow. All right.
Tarantula sex. Why not? I'm already having a gay orgy. I keep saying gay orgy, just an orgy, because it's just like all the different timeline versions of me. Like, that's the thing I didn't buy about that Spider-Man movie. I'm like, why aren't you all having sex with each other? It's okay. You can do it. No one's going to think you're weird. You're just masturbating, really.
Doctor Strange winds up dying because the Spider-Man are jerking each other off with webs. They've got a Rube Goldberg set up.
Oh, that's absolutely true. You knock a ball down and go down.
Love it. Fraggles, Rube Goldberg, Spider-Man sex. That's what I'm titling this episode.
Watching from the side, like, I don't mind that you're doing this. This is just freedom for you.
Let me
Jay,
light
I
some
want you to
incense,
have
though.
I want you to have your freedom, Jay, to have sex with the alternate versions of yourself. I do.
Oh wow, you're right.
That's
They're
my
making a
Moki.
new Fraggle show, so I really hope you get to write for Moki exclusively.
Yes. Yeah, just did a like her and what's the one who had the is it Gobi? Is that who had the uncle?
Gobo.
Wow.
Gobo, like her and Gobo, and just this like real Revolutionary Road suburban ennui, just like 1950s end of a relationship, kind of like they're just stuck in a loveless marriage. Gobi and Gobo, and you know what? Go with your Uncle Traveling Matt. Go. I don't give a shit. Like, you fucking destroyed my life, Moki. Oh, it'd be wonderful.
Oh God. All right, man. Well, thanks so much
man.
again for coming on, dude. You're a blast, man. Love you.
Anytime.
Dystopia Tonight.